How do you do? How do you do, ladies and gentlemen? And this is what I got to say today. I'd like to ask you a question. How many more hundreds of times are we going to have to listen to the story that some white man made a mistake and said something that all of a sudden outraged all the black people of America, and he has to spend the rest of his life apologizing and apologizing for some innocent remark that meant nothing, that said nothing, that was of no consequence. There was no ill intent involved. There was no racist insinuation in anything he said, but because it refers in some way to the black denomination, the black people, all of a sudden it becomes the most disgusting thing you ever heard. Nobody cares if there was any intent involved, any racist attitude involved, or word involved. Nothing that just now that Harry Reid said could be called racist in any way, unless you want to call it racist because you enjoy and feeling that somehow everybody is a racist. Black people enjoy the idea of believing that every white man is a racist. Every place else, you're innocent until proven guilty, except in the case of white people. White people are considered automatically guilty, and they're guilty in advance. So all the black people of America are waiting to hear one word that refers to black people, no matter how innocent it is. It could even be a compliment to the black people. Like this case for Harry Reid was more of an attack on white people, and any implication of racism was against the whites, not against the blacks. But somehow, if any black person is involved in it, or any black thought or any black reference, all of a sudden, it all became an attack on the black denomination of America. How? All he said was that Barack Obama would be more acceptable to the white people because he wasn't a dark black person. And somehow he used the word Negro colloquialism because he didn't use Negro colloquialisms. And because of that, he would sound like more of a typical American, and he would be more acceptable to whites. Now, what's so offensive about it? In what way is it offensive to the blacks that he thought he would be more acceptable because he was more like a white person? If it's offensive in any way, it's offensive to the whites. It's offensive to the whites. It's like saying that white people are still bigots, and if they're not bigots, they act like bigots, or they think like bigots, and therefore somehow they can't accept a black person who really looks black. It's saying that white people still can't accept a truly black person. So it's an insult to the whites, if there's any implication of insult. If anybody should be offended, shouldn't the white people be offended? But somehow it's impossible. It's impossible to say anything where the white black is involved, or the white Negro is involved, or reference to the black population is involved, that is automatically not an offensive thing. Black people say the most racist things every day about white people. How come they're never defensive about it? They say every single day, all you hear is they live in a racist society, and black people still suffer from racism. Here they have a black person who just beat a white person in a presidential contest. The white person was a war hero, was 30 years in the Senate. The black person showed no record of accomplishment in any way. Now let me ask you a question. If you were a foreigner who came into this country, what kind of racism would you interpret that as? You would interpret that as racism against whites. You would say it's impossible for a white person to stand a chance in America. How much do you have to accomplish to still be recognized? Why could a black person who accomplished nothing vanquish a white person who's a hero with a whole history of a lifetime of accomplishment? When a black person just shows up, all of a sudden he's elected. What does it prove? It proves this must be a racist society, but not against blacks. Obviously a racist society against whites. Whites are suffering from a racist society. That's what anybody would interpret it as. But somehow, even this can't be said because it's not nice. Every time you mention something about blacks, even if you're right, then 100% right. And even if you're insulting the whites, somehow the blacks are the ones offended. This is perverted, this is sick, this is deranged, and this need that black people have to make you feel that you're a racist is a power trip. It's a phony power trip to make you feel that somehow you're destined to be the bosses. And they have to serve you and cater to you, and they have to be humble in front of you and humiliated in front of you, and they have to be eating humble pie for the rest of their lives just because they're white. We don't need this kind of racism anymore. This is a racist society against whites, and black people should stop intimidating the whites when there's nothing involved and there's no excuse for it, and it's a fraud and a fake, and it's a phony power trip. Give up the whole idea of racism unless you want to talk about how the white people are the ones suffering from it, not the blacks. You got that? That's it.